This is Deborah Holman. Today is March 19th, 2014, and I'm interviewing Kim White about her relationship to the historic Licking County Jail. Kim, thanks for coming in to talk to us. If you would just tell me when and where you were born, and then just tell me about your experience in your relationship to the Licking County Jail.
Okay, I was born in Newark, Ohio in 1942. My grandmother became matron of the jail when I was close to 5 years old. We moved her down there in the Pfeffer Brothers moving truck, which is no longer around anymore. And I was really excited because I got to ride in the cab of the truck, which was unheard of. So we got Grandma moved in, and she had talked to her son, who was my father, about taking this job as being the matron. He encouraged her to do it. She had worked at the Heisey plant prior to that.
And your mother's name was?
My mother's name, Ruth Ann
Okay.
Thompson. My dad's name was Charles Thompson, and my grandmother's name was Marie Thompson. And she took over being the matron of the county jail, which meant she took care of the women prisoners, and she also helped cook. We were friends with Mayabelle Wilson, who had two girls when they lived there, and her husband was Ray Wilson, who was a deputy. I guess she was not there when we moved Grandma in. Of course, I was close to 5, and I don't remember who was there. I can remember standing in the kitchen doorway, which is just inside the south door of the jail. As you went in, the kitchen was there, and I was not allowed to go in. I had to stand in the doorway and wait until Grandma was done, and then we went upstairs to her apartment. The elevator was a little testy. I never got hung up on it, but my grandmother did more than once. She said she just carried a book with her till they got her out. So she had a nice apartment upstairs. We had all of our Thanksgiving dinners there on the 4th floor, and it was, in my memory, a good-sized apartment. And she had her own kitchen, of course, and 2 bedrooms, a living room, and the bathroom, and a great big walk-in pantry, which we all loved. So.
How often did you visit her there?
Every time we came to town, we would go to the jail to see her. We tried not to get there when she was like cooking or doing anything. I stayed all night there, many times. And at one time, there were no prisoners in the 4th floor women's jail block, and she took me in to show it to me. And in my memory, it's all black and gray.
Yeah.
And I can remember one door that had this little slot in it, and I had asked her, I said, "What's that for?" She said, "Well, that's if they're in lockup and we slide the food there."
Yeah.
She had one prisoner that she'd be out home visiting, and she'd get a call. They'd call her to come back to the jail. She had to go pick up Maud. And Maud drank a lot, and when Maud got soused, well, it was time for her to go to jail, rest up a bit, get sober, have a good meal, and then they would release her. And this happened many times.
Yeah.
And the one very, very sad thing that I can remember her dealing with was when, and I think her name was Joanne, who shot one of the Rizzos. And I can't remember my age. I just remember her talking to my dad and how upset she was over the whole thing, because she had to go to court with her.
Yeah.
And she didn't talk a whole lot, about prisoners or deputies or anything else. Of course, her favorite sheriff was Bill McElroy. And then, of course, he died, and we think it was John Kuntz that went in as sheriff, but we couldn't find it. I went online and tried to verify it, but I couldn't find anything. So there has to be something in archives someplace as far as who all the sheriffs were.
Oh, yeah, there is.
And Virginia Wilson Beach, who was Mayabelle Wilson's daughter, I talked to her, and she said they left there before Grandma retired. My grandmother retired in 1962, and I believe she did it on her birthday, January 2nd. And somebody else, I remember hearing her talk about they had hired somebody, but they wouldn't live there to do the cooking.
So she was the last one?
I think she was the very last one that lived there, yeah, because when she moved out, then they never had anybody live in. She bought a car while she was there, and I remember the little garage that was behind the jail, and they let her park her car in that little garage. She was so proud of that car. And of course, back then, when we got down there to visit her, you had to ring a buzzer that went to her apartment. It was in the kitchen. And she'd raise the window and yell out, "Yoo-hoo," and we'd yell that we were there. Her dad would say, "Mom, we're here." And she'd say, "I'll be right down." And then she'd come down. She had to let us in. We couldn't just go in. And I remember then sometime they put the gate up across to separate the kitchen part from the jail part. And usually it was closed. And Virginia and I were talking about, she remembered the pans that they fed the prisoners in, and they were like a silvery color, and they had 2 slots and then a big part. They were like a rectangle. And I can remember Grandma was fixing them. The trustees were coming to feed the prisoners, and she told me, she said, "You just wait, we have to get the prisoners fed before I take you upstairs." And I thought, that's not very much food. There were 2 slices of bread in one slot and something else, dessert or jello, something in the other slot, and soup, beans in the big one.
Yeah.
So that was my experience with seeing them being fed.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a lot.
But no, we spent a lot of time there because we always went down to visit her. And then, of course, she was, came to see us and would be on call. They knew where to reach her if they needed her. So it was a unique experience.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like your memories are mostly good memories. And
they are. I can't remember anything bad happening. And like I say, there was a stairway that led from her center room, which was a spare bedroom. She kept a dresser in front of it, and I was going downstairs to play with Maybell's girls. And she said, "We're going to go down this stairway." Everything was very secretive. And I was very young, and she said, "Now you must not tell anybody about these stairs, and you must never try and use them." She said, "This is a special thing that we're doing." So, and I don't remember getting to the bottom. I just remember going down that stairway to play with the girls. So that was neat, So that's about it.
Do you have anything else that you want to add before we wrap it up here?
Oh, yeah. She took me down. She had to go to what she called her pantry that was in the basement. And we didn't take the elevator. I don't even know if we went to the basement. We walked down the stairs, and we passed the padded cell. And I remember, I was very young then, and I said, "Well, what is that?" And she said, "Well, that's a padded cell." And she said sometimes they have to put a prisoner in there if they're dangerous to themselves or to somebody else. But she had some kind of a cupboard, something that she kept, because everything was big cans, or big jars. And we went down to get something that she was fixing for the meal. And back up the stairs we went.
So that's when you saw the padded cell.
Yeah.
All right, Kim. Well, thanks for coming in today. I know you're in a hurry, so I'll let you get out of here, but we really appreciate you talking to us. And if you think of anything else, or if you know anybody else that might have something to share, feel free to tell them, to go ahead and contact us, because we'd be glad to talk to them.
Well, Virginia and I are going to get together and compare notes, because she was younger than me when they were there, but
I know
she
someone
said she
spoke
can
to her already, but
she said she remembers playing out in front and one of the trustees being out there. She said, we wouldn't let that happen today for anything. And I said, no.
Isn't that the truth? Things have changed a lot. My dad was a deputy there in the late 60s and early 70s, so I have a little bit of a connection to it as well. But
well, my husband's father, I guess, tore down the old jail before they built that one. How long has that one been there?
That one's the old one, the historic jail?
The one that's there now.
Was built in 1880 something?
Well, he tore down something because I remember Clenny talking about these big stones that he hauled out of there. And I thought it was down there at the old jail.
Maybe it was,
I don't know,
a little garage or outbuilding or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, the jail has been there, I believe it's since the 1880s is when it was built.
Well, we couldn't have been that then.
Original records that we found when it was built.
Well, don't they have anything online or any history, like trying to find the list of sheriffs who had been
I can
sheriffs
show you
there?
that when we wrap up here. I'll show you real quick where you can find that.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and kill the recorder here.